She literally spoke to me as if I was a preschool kid who couldn't figure out how to put the Lego blocks together. Hello, and welcome back to this. So I thought I'd throw it back and do a story time for today's video, and I hope you guys don't mind, but I feel like story times have gone through a weird transition on YouTube because they really blew up when Simply Nessa and Tana Mojo got huge. People started saying, hey, you're lying, you're fabricating, you're over-exaggerating, all this stuff. Content cop, all of this, and then story times weren't as popular, but I feel like they're kind of coming back, maybe? I don't know, but I still enjoy watching them, and I hope you do too, because that is what I'm bringing you for today's video. Today's video, we're going to be talking about why I quit my job at ULTA. Let's just say some bitches were petty, okay? But I will dive into all of that, but I just want to make a disclaimer before I get really into this video by saying that this happened 2.5 years ago, so everything that I'm going to say, I don't remember if verbatim that was said, but that's how I remember it, okay? So, like, I'm not quoting them directly exactly because it was a while ago, so I don't really remember. If it seems over-exaggerated, I promise I'm not doing it on purpose. That's genuinely how I remember it in my head, but I'm also a Gemini, so I remember everything kind of dramatically. You really can't blame me. It's who I am. Trigger warning, if petty bother you, don't watch this video. That's basically what this whole video is. Let's just jump into it. Right around the time that I took my hiatus from YouTube, which if you don't know about, because maybe perhaps you're new here, I will put a little card in the corner for you to go watch my video where I explain where I've been. It's kind of emotional if you want to watch it. It's basically a long emotional story time. There you go. It'll be in the corner. See, right before I had left YouTube, I had been doing a lot of makeup style guru-y videos, potentially. I wasn't really a makeup guru, but I thought I was, so that's awkward. A large makeup company was hiring a representative to be in an ULTA store. So I didn't work for ULTA directly. I worked for a different company, which I'm not going to name because I actually worked for them and they actually have my information. Basically, if you've ever gone into Macy's and you go to one of the counters where there's like the NARS people and the MAC people, I was one of the counter people, but I wasn't being paid by the store I was in. I was being paid by the brand I was representing. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. I was hired to specifically be in a certain ULTA 18 hours a week, so part-time, rather than some contract makeup artists sort of travel between stores depending on where they're needed for an event or something for a specific brand. Not to put them on blast, but they did not give me any training. Any. And I told them I had never sold anything before. I had never been a salesperson, so I had no idea what was going on. I had not the faintest idea of how to sell a makeup to someone other than the very brief experience I had on YouTube making video reviews, basically. They knew that. I was completely honest. I told them straight up I've never sold anything except for when I worked in a movie theater. I had to like sell popcorn. I mean, they didn't give me no training. They did sort of send me to a brand day at their headquarters in LA, and they gave us a rundown, a bunch of their new products, and it was basically for people who had already been in the company for a long time, but I was new, and the information they were giving me was not tailored at all to me being a new person. And they gave me like a little handbook, and they gave me like an online sign-in to do like online courses to figure out what I was supposed to sell the products with. But that was really difficult, and I was already in school, so I tried to educate myself on the product. So I went into ULTA, and I also was very upfront with them, and I told them like, hey, listen, just so you know, like they didn't train me on how to sell to people, and they sort of gave me the assumption that the ULTA people were going to sort of teach me and train me as I was in the store. That did not happen. What actually happened was after I got introduced to all of the managers, they said, all right, get to it. You have to sell at least $500 a week or your supervisor's not going to be very happy. And I was like, I don't know how to sell even $1. And they just kind of were like, oh, well, that's your brand's fault. They should have trained you. And I was like, well, they said that you guys were going to do a bit of the training since I'm going to be stationed specifically in your store constantly, consistently. And the ULTA people were like,
no, that's not what we said.
And I was like, okay, well, there has clearly been a miscommunication, but I still wanted to obviously impress the supervisors I had at my brand. I wanted to impress the ULTA people. I didn't want to mess it up. It was in makeup. It was great. I just wanted to be a really good brand representative. And if you've never worked in an ULTA or a beauty store or a store that has really tight security, maybe like a Best Buy, but usually they check your bag if you come and go with any sort of bag, which is pretty standard because they sell high value items and they don't want you stealing any of them. I didn't know this. No one told me this. I had not the faintest clue. So when I showed up with a purse, the general manager literally looked at me like,
"Oh, you brought your whole bag. Okay. Did no one tell you that you were supposed to bring a clear bag or no bag at all?"
And I was like, no, was I supposed to? And she was like,
"Yes, you were supposed to. But we'll make an exception for you today, I guess."
And I'm really not trying to over-exaggerate here. Like, I know that story times are known for sort of being over-exaggerated, but I swear on the Lord above and on my life and on my left pinky toe that this lady really, really did talk to me and speak to me with that tone in that petty way. Like, I swear on my life. So I put my purse in the back. I had my brand new little brush belt that I like stuck my phone into and I stuck my wallet into. And I had all my fancy brushes that were my own. They don't provide them if you don't work at the store. They have to belong to you. So I had to purchase a whole brush set that I didn't want to use on my own face because that's unprofessional. I had it around my little waist and I was like being a makeup artist, which was really cool. My first day. I knew no one who worked in the store. No one who worked in the store knew me. I had no idea what to do, and no one was going to help me because they didn't know who the F I was, and they were like, who is this over here? Like, why is she here? Who is she? It was just an awkward first day in general, but then the worst part happened. And this would later come to bite me in the butt. I went on my lunch break. Now you may be thinking, lunch break, that's totally normal. Like, why would that come back to bite you in the butt? Well, listen closely to this next part of the story because this is where things really start to get petty. Like I said, they check your bags when you leave and you have to have a clear bag or no bag at all. I went to the general manager because even though had a little bit of a weird interaction with her at first, she was the main person that my supervisor from my brand introduced me to and said if I had any problems, I should go speak to the general manager because my supervisor and the general manager had a close connection, supposedly. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they told me. So I went up to the general manager and I said, hey, I'm going to go on my break now. I've been working for almost 6 hours, so I have to go. But is there anything specific I'm supposed to do? Like, do you need to check my bag since I brought a bag? And she was like,
"Oh, well, if you only leave with your wallet and keys and you don't have a bag, we don't need to check you."
And I said, oh, really? And she was like,
"Yeah, so just leave your stuff in the back, just all of it except for your phone and your wallet, and that's fine. We don't have to check you."
Okay. So you don't have to check me if I don't have a bag. And she was like,
yeah,
okay, cool. So I left my bag in the back. Again, took my phone, my car keys, and my wallet, all the things that I need, and I went on my lunch break. And then I came back, and everything was fine. You may be wondering, Lindsay, that seems fine, like nothing went wrong. Well, remember that for later in the story, okay? Just remember she told me that she didn't have to check me if I didn't have a bag. And that it was okay for her, no one to check me if I only had my wallet, my phone, and my keys. Verbatim. Legit. I promise. That is what she said. If I didn't have a bag, it was all good and I could just go. As you can imagine, someone with no sales training in a sales job where I have a unrealistic goal that I have to meet weekly, I'm gonna struggle. And that's exactly what happened. The brand that I was working for had not ever been in ULTA until this point, so a lot of the regular ULTA customers had no idea what this brand was. Before this, the brand had really only been in like Nordstrom and Macy's, so it kind of was considered more of like an old lady brand. Not to throw shade on the company. Let's just say the ULTA I worked in was in a college town. Old lady brand. College girls. They don't mix well. It was not good. Instead of giving me tips on how to be better, the general manager, who if you haven't caught on, is the villain of this story. The general manager would come up to me and say,
"You know, you're not hitting your sales goal. Why do you think that is?"
And then I would say, well, I don't really have a lot of sales experience and I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm just kind of learning on the fly while trying to educate myself with my brand's videos. But I really don't know what I'm doing. Do you have any advice for me? And she said,
"Well, if you tried a little bit harder, you'd probably do a little bit better."
and I was like, well, damn. All right. And, you know, when you start working at a place, you tend to also make friends with the other people who work there. And that was a little bit hard to do because so many different types of people worked at this ULTA. But I did become friends with the person who was the Lancome brand advisor, specialist person. Although she actually worked for ULTA, but was specifically for the Lancome station. Because in this ULTA, Lancome had like a whole chunk of the store. I became friends with her because we were on the luxury or like the expensive side of the store. Because if you've ever been in ULTA, they have the drugstore brand and then they have the like fancy end. And I was located on the fancy end. And so was she. So we just sort of hit it off. We became friends. We would talk. She would give me tips. She would give me advice. And I was like, finally, someone's going to guide me. Someone's going to give me tips and help me and show me the ropes. Because I had no idea what I was doing. And so she was being great and she was teaching me and she was giving me advice and she was showing me how I was supposed to speak to customers. And I started doing better. But the general manager didn't like that I was speaking to people because I didn't work for ULTA. So she thought I shouldn't speak to anyone who works at ULTA. She came up to me and was like,
"You know, if you stopped spending so much time talking to Lancome advisor, you probably would hit your sales goal, but it seems like you're slacking off a lot, and I don't want to tell your supervisor that you're kind of not trying very hard. So I think you should stop talking to her, and you should really put in more effort. Otherwise, I don't know if you're going to last here very long. Sorry."
Is she basically in a very, very, very sweet perfume-laced way told me that I was a lazy piece of shit. I was like, all right, sounds good. I'm gonna try harder. And this was only like after 2 weeks of working there, I think. I did not work there that long. It was literally a month and a half that I worked there and I was like, I can't do this. I'm out. I literally can't do this anymore. It was awful. I really started trying. And I remember one time in the store, there was another brand representative who was one of those people who was only there for like the weekend to help boost the brand just like that Saturday. And there was a really big lull in the middle of the day because it was in the summer break before a lot of the college students came back. So there was not a lot of the regular people who normally shopped at the ULTA. And so I walked over to her and I asked her if she had any advice for me. You know, I told her my little story, my little spiel. She said, yeah, just walk around with like one of the products in like your belt. Just casually, when you ask people if they need help, sort of bring it into the conversation. And I was like, okay, cool. Because at this point, even though no one, basically, not no one, but a lot of people didn't want to hear about my brand. They were really just there for like the Maybelline, the CoverGirl, the Rimmel, like the cheap stuff because we were in a college town. So like no one had money. I got really good at going up to people and being like, hi, do you need help today? Or, you know, like, hi, how can I help you? Hi, do you need help finding anything today? And half the time they'd be like, no, thank you, I'm good. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd keep walking. But I got very, very, very good at being very versatile in that store because no one wanted to shop at my brand. So I had to do something. Otherwise, my brain was literally going to turn into goo. And so I would just help people find whatever they needed. Like even if it was a random concealer from a totally different brand that had nothing to do with mine, or they needed help with a face mask, which my brand didn't even sell, I would help them find those things because I figured that's better than doing nothing, right? That'll show that I'm not lazy to these managers. That'll show that I'm putting forth an effort. And a lot of the other employees took notice too, and they were like, you should just work for ULTA. Like if you were a general ULTA employee, you would be great. If you were just a floor person, you would be doing so good. You'd probably be employee of the month. You help way more than a lot of the other people help. You're really trying, you're really putting an effort. That's what the other employees at ULTA said to me. And I didn't even work at ULTA, but I wanted to do something to impress the managers who were supposedly really close with my supervisor for my brand. So yeah, I was normally walking around asking people if they needed help, giving them advice where I could. and trying to plug my products in for my brand when I could. And then when the other representative from the other company told me, have a little thing in your pocket, like have it peek out a little bit. People will ask questions, that kind of stuff. And she gave me genuine advice. I followed it and it did help me get quite a few sales. And I really started doing a lot better. And I still wasn't hitting my sales goal though, but I was getting way closer than I ever was before. But still, the general manager was just in general not friendly at all towards me. And she would just come up to me when there was literally no one in the store, and she'd be like,
"That 80-year-old lady over there looking at hair care products, you haven't talked to her yet. Why? You should go see if she wants any of your brand. Maybe if you tried a little harder, you would have thought of that before I came up to you to talk to you about it."
And I was like, yo, fine. So I literally did everything in the store. I did everything except for ring people out and do their freaking hair in the salon. I literally did everything because I was trying so desperately to fit in and prove that I actually belonged there. And it didn't work, apparently. It didn't work, but I kept getting closer and closer and closer and closer to my sales goals. My brand, like I mentioned, wasn't a old brand in ULTA. It wasn't a recognized brand. It was a new brand. And apparently, before I even started in the store, when they had a whole remodel of the store and they added my brand section to the store, my supervisor, before they even hired me, had a whole meeting with the general manager and told her that everyone was supposed to help push the brand from their corporation. The entire corporations were in cahoots, and it was like a big thing. Like, it wasn't just supervisor to general manager, like all the corporation of my brand and ULTA were in cahoots, and they agreed that every single person who worked for ULTA, not just the specialists like I was, everyone who worked at ULTA was supposed to be selling my brand and pushing it. But no one was. And you know what the general manager did? Instead of reminding her other employees to be pushing my brand and helping me out a little bit when they could, she didn't tell them anything, and instead blamed it all on me when during the week when I wasn't there, because I was obviously only there on the weekends, for some reason, no one would buy the brand. No one at all would buy the brand. And she blamed it on me, as if it was my fault, when I was expected to do a weekly goal in a matter of 2 days, basically, 2.5 days, because she didn't remind her other employees who actually worked under her that they were supposed to be pushing that brand. And so it all fell on my shoulders. So when my brand supervisor sort of caught wind that the brand was not doing as well as it should be, even though we had phone conversations a lot together, her and I really told her that I was trying, she kind of figured out that maybe ULTA wasn't doing 100% of what they should be doing. So my supervisor and the ULTA general manager got in cahoots, and they decided that they were going to have a brand event for my brand, and I was supposed to be there for the full 2 days. It was going to be a 2-day thing, standing front and center. So right when people walked in the door, I was supposed to be like, "Hi, have you heard of blank?" Or "Hi, can I help you with blank?" Or "Hi, we're having a special on blank." It was supposed to really help boost business. And so we got a big banner of my brand. They gave me 2 tables in the front, and I set up displays for them, and I did everything I could. And those 2 days I did really well. During that event, I had to go on my break. Remember what I said about what the general manager said about bags and how I didn't need one if I only had my phone and my wallet? Yeah. Remember that? So I had to go on my break, and I didn't bring a purse with me. I only had my phone, I had my wallet, and I had my car key shoved in my pocket, and that was it. And I took my brush belt off, so it literally was just me walking out of the store with my little black outfit on, and that's it. And the 2 things that were in my hand, which had been fine. The entire month I had been working there. No one said anything to me about it. People saw me coming and going as I pleased to go on my breaks. No one said a thing about it to my face. No one said there was anything wrong with it. Nothing. So of course I had the assumption that, since the general manager told me that this was okay, and no one was saying that it wasn't okay to me, even though they saw me do it literally every single freaking weekend for a whole freaking month, that I thought it was okay. But it wasn't. And how I discovered this was when I came back from my peaceful lunch. The general manager came storming up to me and said,
"Where were you?"
"I was on my break."
"Well, why didn't you tell me?"
And I was like, "What do you mean?"
"You just left. You just left on your break. You just left on your break and you didn't tell anyone. Didn't you think that was weird?" Didn't you think that you should probably tell someone? You didn't tell anyone, and we were looking for you, and we couldn't find you. And of course, when we couldn't find you, we had thought you just ran off. And who knows what you could have ran off with. You could have ran off with anything in the store. You're supposed to tell someone. And you didn't. You didn't even think to tell anyone. So, next time, seriously consider it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to talk to your supervisor.
And this was my response. I thought that was okay. I'm sorry. I genuinely had no idea that I was supposed to check out before I left. No one told me anything, and I've been here for almost a month, and I sort of was under the impression that I didn't have to, and no one said anything about it to me. I just thought if I didn't have a bag and I only had the things in my hands and that's it, that was okay and that was acceptable. And she was like,
I bet you did think that. Yeah, I bet you did think that, but that's not correct. And you were wrong. So, you should be sorry.
And I was like, I am sincerely sorry. I'm so sorry. I promise it won't happen again.
You should be sorry.
And I was like, what? I held in my tears. I held them in. I held them in strong, and I went back and I kept working the event like nothing even happened. But then I went home and I cried. I cried so hard. I was so upset. I remember I called my mom and I said, Mom, I think I'm going to quit. I'm just done. I'm over it. I've been so depressed. I've been beating myself up senseless over meeting unrealistic goals that no one even trained me how to do. And I used to really like this job. I thought the idea of this job was great. Being a makeup artist, showing people makeup, making people happy, making people feel beautiful. But it's not worth it if I'm going to be treated like garbage. It's not worth it if I'm going to be depressed and just break myself down over the fact that I'm not hitting these numbers and no one who's working here even likes me. So what's the point? And my mom was like, yeah, you're right. You should quit. It sounds like you're not happy. I don't want you to be depressed. And if you're genuinely not happy, like, yeah, most people aren't happy with their jobs, but you're too young to have to worry about that right now. You're not having to make ends meet. You're lucky enough that we support you as your parents. So yeah, go ahead and quit. To this day, I am so thankful that I had that conversation with my mom, because I can't even imagine if I would have kept working under those conditions, because it was just awful and I hated it. And basically after that, after all of this, after basically feeling belittled, after blaming myself for the fact that my brand wasn't doing well, I decided enough was enough. I am over it. I'm over it and I'm going to quit because this isn't worth it. And I'm not happy. So I quit. The next day during business hours, I called my supervisor and I said, listen, we need to have a conversation about this. And basically I'm just not comfortable with the general manager at the ULTA that I work at, and because it's so bad, I want to quit. And she asked me specifically why, and I said, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but just some of the things she said to me and some of the ways that she spoke to me were so unprofessional and so rude and belittling that I just don't want to work there anymore, and I'm sorry. And she was like, oh, well, she seems really nice. Are you sure that that's what happened? And I was like, yeah. But that's just the experience I had, and it's bad enough that I want to quit. So I'm going to quit, and I'm sorry, but this is my 2-week notice. And she was like, well, we're really sorry to see that you're gone. We don't want you to completely leave the company. So if you want to become a contract makeup artist and we just let you know when we're having events in the area, that sounds totally good. And we'll just do that. So you're still employed for our brand, but you won't be working in the ULTA anymore. And I'll start looking for someone to fill your position as the regular brand advisor in that ULTA. And I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry again, but I can't. I can't. And she understood, and my mom understood. And yeah, I told the general manager, I put in my 2 weeks notice, and she was like,
oh, really? Oh, when's your last day?
Like, she literally said it to me in that fake of a tone. I literally remember. Like, she said it as if she was talking to a freaking third grader. Like, literally spoke to me as if I was an 8-year-old child who was showing her a finger painting that I did. Like, it was ridiculous the way that she spoke down to me. But of course I had no HR person to go to because I didn't actually work for ULTA. I had no way to report to them that I was kind of being mistreated in my position. But I had no one to go to. That's just one of the things that can happen in the corporate world, unfortunately, in corporations and in smaller jobs like working in an ULTA or working in a store. There can be a lot of bad workplace communication, and there can just be an unhealthy work environment. But unfortunately, because HR doesn't listen, or there's not really a good HR division of the company that you can go to, people just have to deal with it all the time, and that's not okay. And I'm really glad that I stood up and I told my mom the truth, and I told my brand advisor the truth, and now I'm telling you all the truth, because it's not right. And if you're in a situation where you feel like that's happening, if you have someone to go to, you should go to them. Those next 2 weeks after I put in my 2 weeks notice were just chill, because I was just like, I'm out of here soon. I'm still going to try, of course, because I didn't want them to think I was slacking off, but I was like way, way, way less worried. And it's hilarious because I think that at the last weekend that I worked there, I actually hit my sales goal, or I was like $2 away from it, something ridiculous. Like I was almost there. And I was like, wow, see, I really did make an improvement, but it doesn't matter because I'm leaving because you are mother crazy. Okay, so I'm out. And after that whole shenanigan about me not checking out for lunch and all of that, of course, I obviously got on top of it. And every time I had to go on break, I told one of the managers and I said, hey, I'm about to go on break. Do you need to check my stuff? And they'd be like, yeah, you only have stuff in your hands. You're good. Like literally it would take 2 seconds, but they made such a huge deal about it. Anyway, my very last day, I went up to her, the general evil manager, and I said, I'm about to leave. Do you want to check me one last time? And she was like,
One last time? What do you mean?
oh, it's my last day. Yeah, I'm not going to be coming here anymore. I'm not going to be working here anymore. And I had a huge smile on my face. And she was like,
Aw, that sucks. We're going to miss you so much.
She literally spoke to me as if I was a preschool kid who couldn't figure out how to put the Lego blocks together. Like, it was so fake and with such a fake tone. It was ridiculous. And I remember in that moment, I was feeling like, oh, bitch. I basically said, yeah, it does suck, but I'll come back probably. And then I just left. And that was that. And I kid you not that my PTSD from working in that ULTA was so bad, I did not step foot in that ULTA. For 6 months, I didn't step foot in that ULTA. Nope, they're cut out of my life. The toxicity is out. I am done. It is over. It is not happening anymore. That's it. But that's it for this video. If you have a crazy ULTA story or a crazy Sephora story or just a crazy story about some sort of job or any sort of that kind of thing, let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified the next time that I make a video. And I will see you lovely, beautiful people. And don't forget it that you're lovely, beautiful people, even if you work at ULTA. See you in the next video. Goodbye.